In the beginning, there was the word. It was vibration. Vibration is the power of creation. Some people create a very little bit with their words, and some people with their words have great power.
Greetings and welcome to the Compromise to Alchemized podcast with me, your host, Dr. Neil Bolchadani. I get the pleasure of interviewing thought leaders, healers, artists, musicians, all kinds of people who are exploring what is their personal legend with me. I ask them that question. I also ask them often, what is it that keeps them on this path of discovery or purpose? And it's really, really fun to hear what people say. And I'm really excited to have Bob Lehnberg back on the podcast. He was my first guest back in 2024 when I launched the podcast. It was called Embryology. You can listen back to find out the transition there. After the first year, I switched to calling it the Compromise to Alchemized podcast, and really have been loving exploring, especially as of late, conversations around consciousness. And that's what we do. We discuss all kinds of aspects to that exploration. So to give you context, though, for who Bob is, although I encourage you listening to the first episode, is, let's see, Bob, he has been studying body-mind centering since 1984. He received his certification as practitioner of body-mind centering in 1990 and as a teacher of body-mind centering in 2002. He has received teacher certifications for body-mind centering yoga and integral yoga and the Supreme Science of Qigong. He's served on the National Certification Board for Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork for 15 years. He's been teaching in schools of massage therapy and programs of somatic training since 1990. So, yeah, he's taught body-mind centering and somatic practice throughout the U.S., internationally, Europe, Canada, China, Taiwan. He is the co-founder of Kinesthetic Learning Center in Durham, North Carolina. He's been on the faculty teaching and coordinating the body-mind centering somatic movement educator and practitioner certification programs since 2007. He's coordinated SME, that's the somatic movement educator courses for Esprit in Movement in Montreal, Canada, and is co-director of the SME program in Taichung. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this place in Taiwan correctly. Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, the creator of Body Mind Centering, is his primary teacher of somatics. Since 1990s, he has learned traditional Qigong and Tai Chi from world-renowned teachers and many others. The Body Mind Centering, experiential anatomy, embodied embryology, and the development of progression enlivens and enriches Qi cultivation. He incorporates and integrates each approach in his teaching. He teaches embryology Qigong and other systems of Qigong in person and online. Daily practice and study provide Bob with fresh insights and inspiration for healing, growth, and teaching. Really, as you discover on the podcast, he also was a mime. He's been involved in theater, and he's just a great natured person. So please enjoy, and I can't wait to hear what you think about this episode. Just a couple of points before we dive into this episode. I am celebrating the fact also that when I recorded that episode, it's the one and only episode I recorded out of the home office of Dawn, my wife, back in Reading before we moved. And that's where she started to work on her PhD. Well, she graduated from the California Institute of Integral Studies last month and is officially Dr. Dawn Bolchadani, and with her degree in embodied validation. So kind of a really cool moment where I remember sitting there. I remember Bob actually bearing with me on all these technical difficulties, and we had a great conversation. So that is a landmark moment in terms of my wife in our family that we want to mention. I've also got some really exciting things happening coming up. Some travel to teach the 4-4 FMDI, collaborating with some people along the way, which I'll be sharing more about. and having come off of the training that I did for Infinity Neuromotor Development Center in Iowa, their headquarters, and my Cosmic Mandible webinar has launched. So for those who joined in, it was a blast. The next one is the last Thursday of this month, but you can get it anytime. It's Eventbrite. Make sure you check it out. Cosmic Mandible. You can get the bundle, so you get all of the series, and the recordings come to you, so you don't need to attend live. So I'm really loving it, and that was just part one. Can't wait to see what happens in when you all take in part two, which is coming up again last Thursday of this month, and then there's two ones after that. So I am really, really looking forward to more and more. And in this course that I'm teaching on the Cosmic Mandible, it's not only keys about the jaw, how to unlock it gently without all this excessive force that we're seeing out there, and excessive um, rigidity or tension or any of that. It's this sequence and flow that I'm teaching in stepwise fashion, like a dance move. So we'll be kind of taking a little bit from each of these and building up a little dance routine for you for your jaw, for not only for these jaws that are recessed and retrognathic, but not only the ones that need more airway space for function of breathing and all of those things we need in oxygenation, but it's pain relief and tension relief in the whole body and its vitality. So many more things. So I'm mixing in the expressive arts, my history in dance, and how that plays its role in how I uncovered this path. So without further ado, you've been hearing "Smokeless Fire" by Michael Gunger in the background. He just returned from his music tour, so I'll be doing another interview with him coming up soon. So I'm excited for that. But listen to Bob and listen to our conversation and enjoy.
What would I like to make? How would I like to play?
Well, it's excellent to have you here, Bob. And I almost don't want to interrupt the flow we were in, but then I started to hear you say something about embryology, and I didn't want to not have it as something all could hear. So let's just go back into what you were saying, and then I'll come back to give context.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're spinning off of what you were talking about, one of your guests using creating, mixing music to create something new, producing music. And for me, it just came up as embryology is this process it's a process.
Yeah.
And many of us think that it's a process when you're just in the womb or the first 8 or 10 weeks in the womb, and then you just kind of grow, grow bigger. Um, but constantly, we have the ability to constantly shape our experience in the body, um, and then maybe as we relate with our environment, other people. Um, and granted, it might start off as a very quick process. When we're a little baby, when we're very young and there's a lot of chi, a lot of life force, a lot of vitality, just, creating and creating, creating. We can still have that, even, as we spend after we're born, become adults, and we can be participating in either our profession, family life, the environment, other people, politics, civil pursuits. Um, but it's like, how do we sustain that energy? Where do we get it from? I'm not sure it's like, I don't mean like searching for it. Oh, where's the energy? But I think it's like finding it. That's a little different. And so, there's a common theme in business is like, if you have an idea or entrepreneur or something, it's like, what will sustain you through the hard times of the doubts, in the what ifs, and the potential, the perceived lack is like passion. Whatever passion is, you could even say enthusiasm. And it doesn't have to be bubbling over all the time, but somewhere underneath, our passion and our enthusiasm for a given relationship or goal. It's easy to say. It's so easy to say, and sometimes it's very challenging to find. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's the the thoughts behind the words are, like, it's interesting, thinking pre-expression, the words kind of spoken aloud, crystallized thoughts that come from, who knows how long ago, they kind of echo through reality. So I really value the way that we can have these conversations where we get to share what made us, like who made us, what made us. Then we speak, these words become material through sound, then they carry over. um and it's kind of an abstract way to say, like, and then here we are just talking through a portal. And actually, I'm going to give context because
Hmm.
I before I wax poetic, um 2 years ago, it was more than 2 years ago, we had our first, we had a conversation for my podcast. Two things about that were, I you were the first person I interviewed, um, and that was awesome. And this was when I lived in Redding, which now we live in Santa Barbara. And also, um, let's see, the podcast was called Embryology. That year I interviewed other people that I look up to in the field of embryology. We could say morphological or embodied embryology, or pre and perinatal psychology, kind of that kind of idea, as opposed to purely academic embryology, which all of it's valuable. So, um, boy, I feel like a lot's happened. I mean, you traveled, as you have been for many years, and I'm gonna make sure, like, Alyssa from my team is sharing a link so that anybody who views this can go back and see what our conversation was like, because you went into a lot of your story.
Hmm.
And so I kind of feel like that's why I wanted to have a conversation where we go deeper into thought, deeper into expression and conversation. But I think some people will not have heard, exactly who you are. Although I, by now, have read your bio, so that is the amazing thing about this technology, is I'll record as I do. I like to record right after and then give a little bio. So, but I would love to know, beyond the bio, um, like, what has been the swirling, kind of nature of what you've been up to? How do you, uh, in terms of embryology and all you're doing, what does that look like most recently, and what are your pursuits most recently?
Great question. So yeah, as far as embryology, that's just a sliver, if you will, of what I do, but it's also foundational. It goes along with, it's part of the uh, body of study of body mind centering, experiential anatomy, developmental movement, and part of that is embryology. I take embryology as a process, as a personal relationship with somatics, the living relationship of body and mind. I mean, it's been separated. It's one, can be perceived as one. Um, and uh, so we'll just say what I'm doing now is, so it's kind of in a way, it's a Western approach. It's a analytical approach, but
Mm.
it's experiential in in the investigation, if you will, or in the embodiment, if you want to use that word. Um, and what I'm interested in now is, and I've been is applying it to Qigong. Qigong is like the foundations of the ABCs of Tai Chi. Some people describe Qigong as Chinese yoga. Some people kind of look at it as like Qi is our life force, Gong is work or practice or engagement, respect or relationship with our life force, Qi Gong. And then Tai Chi very simply would be the application in a martial endeavor. But also Tai Chi itself can be for a meditative purpose or a meditative contemplative for health, but also, like I mentioned, martial. So I'm interested in bridging the two. Not bridging the two. Is that it? I'm interested in both.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I'm very interested in the we'll say the experiential or the I don't like to say Western and Eastern, but the experiential aspect of it. It's so. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can't come up with the word of my choice now to describe what I consider the Eastern perspective, or particularly the Chinese perspective. With all due respect, they've been the Chinese have been exploring somatics for millennia.
Mm-hmm.
They don't call it somatics, and depending on the teaching, is like it's just experience in practice, and there's not so much analysis, and I think that's changing. But my understanding traditionally is not so much analysis; it's like doing it,
Mm-hmm.
practice, and then getting some pointers. Um, and um, and the foundation. So I have a teacher, and we do one-on-ones, and he's teaching me a bunch of things as much as I can possibly absorb. He keeps telling me to relax, and relax is not just oh, I'll say this: collapse. Collapse is not relax. Relax is not collapse. This concept called Song, Song, in translated, but it means to actually to release. So when you hear this term Song in a Tai Chi or a Qigong class, think, oh, just relax. But it's more about releasing,
Mm-hmm.
releasing, holding, and releasing any block of filling. It's kind of like, what did he just say? So it's two aspects of it. I'm not going to I don't want to talk beyond my experience. So for me, it's like the best of my ability, I teach from my experience and know when something is theoretical or conceptual and what is my experience and my truth. Um, and it's really amazing as I've been working with this over some months. It's a practice. The other thing, it's a practice every day or regularly, whatever it is. And I mean, this morning I really didn't want to, but I did, you know, and it kind of carries through the day. This is like, but I am relaxed. No, it's a whole different level of relaxation. And it's not relaxed in the brain. It's relaxed in relationship to gravity, feeling it in the body, and then registering that consciously. And it's a whole, I mean, you're talking about alchemy. It is alchemy. And it's alchemy through presence. So I would say that the gift of all of I don't know what is alchemical. Presence is alchemical. It's not thinking back there, not thinking in the future. It's not thinking some other place. We can do that. It's certainly a great ability. I can think myself on Mars, whatever. Um, Again, great abilities, great skills. Visualize. Those are also skills to develop. Visualize externally, internally, but simply being present. And for me, it's through sensation in the body. That's one of the gifts of the body. One of the curses of the body depends on what your sensations are. And one of the aspects of somatics, as I have studied the body mind centering, is that the experience originates in the body. You need to let go of the blocks to have a brand new experience, somatic experience, a sensate experience in the body. And then that is um, received by consciousness, by the brain. And it's like, oh, now I'm feeling this. And then once the brain learns, it's like, oh, this is the arm, or this is the sensation, or this is the muscle or the organ or whatever it is. And this is the desired movement. Then the brain wants to direct the movement and make it happen. And so this is about bottom up. My approach to somatics is bottom up. How do I let go of the preconception to allow an original experience in the body, a new connection, a new relationship happen in the body, and then that's perceived consciously. And for me, it's earth and sky are the great teachers.
Mhm.
Gravity and gravity are the great teachers. Um, and we also can be aided by people who have gone before. Say, hey, this is what it was like for me. Try this. I'm not saying that it should be the same for you, but try this. What is it like for you? So, um, so to open doors is kind of like a flashlight. I consider myself as not so much as a teacher, as a focalizer was a term that's used, or a pointer. Like just pointing here, try this door, or try that direction, or what's this like? Um, Not projecting my experience on someone else, but being open to hearing what somebody else's experience is, and then having reflection or dialogue about that in order to better understand each other. Um, and just the nature of being in a body, alive, and by the grace of God, it's quiet here, and I'm warm, and I'm fed, and all that. I mean, it's as I've traveled, and people have traveled, realize that wow, everything isn't like it is in you know um, hometown America.
Mhm.
And even across the countries, lots of differences. So, I mean, to kind of get back on track, is my practice is presence. It sounds very simple, and
Mhm.
we go to meditation classes and this and that and the other, and those certainly help. And I've done my share, and this is where transformation happens right now. Yeah. Um, I guess one more thing that comes up of reflecting on what you introduced when you started this um, our chat with is like you're speaking and I'm speaking and all, and we're talking through the airwaves. We're not speaking in the same room, so it's not the same pressure of air physical in space, but it's through the wires of the internet. I'm constantly reminded in all like spiritual traditions, in the beginning there was the word. It was vibration. Vibration is the power of creation. Um, some people create a very little bit with their words, and some people with their words have great power.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, well, we can think of ideas about people in with a lot of power speaking a few words and initiating great change.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
that full circle is really good. I mean, I think when you said, it is practicing presence, and you said something very simple, but you said like right now. And the silence right after you said that is like, okay, this is a very practical practice. Presence is to let silence be itself. Um, and I really have felt that the more I mean, I just really enjoy like getting to talk to somebody like you, who I feel holds such a history of practice of that. Because what is consciousness? It's awareness, and it's a cultivated, steady, ongoing existence, and being aware of that, and also being aware of what are we doing and who are we. And so, yeah, I
What
mean,
what
go
a
ahead. Yeah, right. Not walking away now all of a sudden I'm thinking walking around with amnesia, thinking, "Wait a minute, who am I? What am I?" But I think
I
it's
know. So it's a great question.
right. I actually feel like there's gold in having relative amnesia, not real amnesia, and not at all celebrating something that is a very, very painful thing, is,
Yeah.
never wanting people to suffer. But I it's like I I've done this throughout life is when it's seasons of transition, big ones. I'm like, I need to forget everything. I remember
Mm,
when I was telling one of my good friends and colleagues, Brent, who we went to chiropractic college together. So next week it'll be the 18-year celebration of our graduation, and we met the first day of chiropractic college 3 years prior. So boy, that is like 21 years. Um, and we have
mm,
many moments, but I remember when I graduated chiropractic college and went back to my hometown in Illinois, and I was thinking, okay, I gotta wait for my license to come. And I was helping another friend, Adam, with his construction company,
mhm.
helping reno houses because I had to wait 6 months to get my license. It was just the weird way we graduated and had to wait that long. And I remember I've always been a fan of the arts and creativity, a history in dance and a history in spoken word and things like that. So I started studying singing, playing the ukulele, and I remember watching this video on puppeteering, and I'm like, wait a minute, puppeteering, and I was getting inspiration. I was reading about Robin Williams, how he studied to be a mime. I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna go to Virginia and go to mime school. I remember I had all these thoughts while I was waiting for my license, and I told my friend Brent, I was like, Brent, I'm thinking about. He's like, Neil, those are dangerous thoughts, and I always remember that because he didn't mean it in a negative way, but I, at the risk of foolishness, have thought in junctures of time I could just give it all away and become another person, become another, keep my friends, keep my relations. Obviously, I'm married with 3 kids, like cultivate these things, but I'm still willing to completely let go of my mastery and expertise of whatever it is, because that is not who I am. Like who I
Mm,
am is underneath that all. So, um, yeah, I even feel as I express that, that's different. So it's like holding space is what you do for people to explore who they are, Bob. And I think that's what comes through too is uh, that yeah, maybe you could speak to how you've seen that happen in people, or your thoughts about that with
mm.
people as you've co-explored consciousness with others in all these trainings and courses and times. What's been something that's, I don't know, speaks to you now about seeing that happen in others, seeing the bloom of
Mm.
awareness, or even the bloom of people aware with awareness of their blueprint of who they are?
Yeah. Let's see. So before I get into that, is like, so you entertained mime school. I did do mime school.
Right. That's
And
right. You
now
did.
I was a silent mime, silent clown for I think 13 years, before I got,
Yeah.
in the transition.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yes.
it was wanting to be a quote better mime,
Uh-huh.
that got me into somatics
Oh my gosh.
because
I love
the
that.
mind, the body is the instrument. And so I said, I want to be, more expressive with my instrument for characterization and emotion, feeling, and all that. So, and then I said, I'll go to body mind centering school. This is 1988. And then I got interested in the somatics and anatomy and, and the hands-on work, the hands-on relationships. Um, so that's interesting is so I, I lead classes and a lot of it. So for me, I can talk for the end of our time about what somatics is and some explorations and this and that, but it really doesn't mean anything if you don't experience it. Like you have to get in the studio or we have to get one on one or whatever that is. And what got me into this work, and I think I shared it in the last podcast, is that internal experience, myself as my reference. And that's because I had a brand new experience of of my adrenal glands. I know it sounds a little far out for some of you, but it was like I came in with a science mind. I took this yoga class through the endocrine glands. The topic of a class was the adrenal glands, and I felt the energy and the embodiment, if you will, of the adrenal glands and how it supports rootedness and verticality in the spine. And the words don't do it full justice, but it's one of the experiences of dozens and dozens, many, 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 many that I've had along this journey. And so for me, I realized what got me is not the words that the teacher was saying, but how I received and was able to, you could even say, alchemize the words into a different physical state or relationship. And so when I'm with people, one, I use words, um, and also use hands-on demonstrations and facilitate hands-on in stillness and in movement. It is more and more what I find, and I've been teaching since, I'll just say 30 years now, longer than that, but no matter, is how can I really speak from my experience, not from my brain, but from my experience, and also having had the experience of hearing from other people to broaden my ability to fill or to cultivate the space, to hold the space for other people to come into, to trust the space, trust the folks that are around, and to actually let go of some of the holding and of the conditions to allow something new to come in, whatever that might be, and it's going to be different for different people. And the other thing is, I do this in hands-on in one of private sessions or demonstrating in front of a group. And the hands-on hands are very powerful for as you as you know as a chiropractor, how important hands are to facilitate or support or just be present with somebody's change in their body. And it doesn't come from their brain. I mean it can. The way I look at it, the brain, very powerful organ that we have, but it's still just a bunch of cells. And the bunch of cells massed together called the brain or the spinal cord or the spinal nerves or all that. They're just a bunch of cells. They relate with gravity the same as all the other cells. They relate with sky, just like, or heaven, if you will, whatever, just like any other cells, but they have a specific function. They do things specifically. But we also, like our liver has cells, they do specific liver things. And, our whatever our organs, our intestines do specific intestine things, secrete stuff, absorb stuff, move stuff along, but they also respond to gravity and levity the same as any others. And when we can just experience this for a moment, it's kind of like it's in a way it's leveling into wholeness, everything inside the skin, unifying. So doing hands-on um, greatly facilitates that, is another tool. And so consistently bringing a person's awareness and attention inside the body to see what's there. And so, part of my avenue is through this body-mind centering perspective. And part of it, I'm very curious about the lack of a better way of saying it, the Chinese uh, approach of Qigong and Tai Chi. And I've been taught by Western people, and I've been taught by people who grew up in China, and I respect them all. I've learned. Thank you so much for sharing. To be taught, to be open to be taught, and to change, to actually be changed, alchemized, really shifted, in not just, oh, now I can feel my shoulder now, or I can feel my hip, but how my consciousness changes, my ability to relate with myself and to others more fully, and to be present in a class in a very different way than just spouting off information, but actually being in the field, being in the vibration of other people. And you said you were interested in dance, but dancing with it. I mean, not like, dancing around like a ballet dancer, modern dance, but sometimes demonstrations come out in dance or
Yeah.
other movements. But to be in that, and it is truly a gift.
Yeah. Well, your words took me so many places because, I did teach an intuitive movement class for a time. We covered this a little bit, and it was very kindred to continuum, but separate. I didn't know about continuum when I formed what I formed, even though continuum predates it. And so I've had Donalia Goals on, and some other continuum people.
Mm.
Also, Kate White came on recently. It was her and Frank Carbone. They were last week, and then I originally interviewed her and Frank separately, not too long after you, and so Kate was raving about your studies and how you
Um,
were ushering her into this interesting interesting intersection of embryology and qigong and embryochi, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's
But
the
as a
term you
name,
had. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, um, but the fluidity of that kind of movement, and what you were speaking of, yeah, that was very much, I could say like I was involved in interpretive dance and also more like fluid dance, actually liquiding, postural and gestural movement art that was birthed in the 90s. It was part of the rave scene, which I was part of, but it borrowed from miming and other kinds of arts. So again, I'm paying homage to something you've done with years of
Mm,
that. I've only experimented, but I really think that that kind of conscious movement, the consciously exploring our existence, like and I know you have this keen ability to look beneath the body and into these single cells, and not only from our current
mm,
perspective, because I think honestly, like I've said this at symposia when I teach about the embryological origins to some of these areas in the body that relate to the floor of the mouth, as my system has shown it. And some people are like, okay, Neil, where are you going with this? And I'm like, I know embryology is pretty boring on its own, but morphological embodied embryology, the way that you teach it, the way that Kate, the way that others delve into it, it's very practical. It's very much, I mean, and I think even the embryology I used to think was boring is not. It's alive. It is us coming into being. It's why wouldn't we want to explore the little tiny elements of formation? And but I think what I've gotten so much out of is you can read a lot, but then if you spend time dwelling in this awareness and you allow the reality of what happened in utero gestation, like that's us. Like we have a car manual and we read that trying to fix our vehicles. Some people do. I don't do that anymore. But we look at this manual of our lives and our existence, and I think we need conscious guides and explorers of this territory, which you are one of, on how do we wade through the waters of what happened at the first week and the second week and the pharyngeal arches and neural tube
mm,
development. But I think it's like I think slowly but surely there's been a greater appreciation by more people of taking stock of what happened to us in utero, or how we formed and what led to that. And also I think you said this. It's when you're with people, it's like we to re-explore that is fruitful
mm.
because it can really change our perspective of not only what happened in formation, but who we are today and tomorrow. So I think I've interrupted you before I let you get to the answer of what I asked you, but I actually like that you answered what you answered because I think it was really Awesome. So, well, actually, can we go deeper into what really led you to mime school, first of all?
Oh, wow. Um, now I got to go back. So I got into short version, long story. I moved to Chapel Hill after college, and I was going to go to graduate. I was going to spend a year, then go to graduate school. I got during that time, I got interested. I got involved with theater,
Yeah.
which I'd never done before. But I remember the very first rehearsal. And I come from a science background. I mean, I was going to be, PhD in anatomy or physiology, something that was like my thing.
Hmm.
So they were recruiting for a play, and actually a friend of mine, I just was having breakfast with him and some friends. Hey, Bob, I'm supposed to be in this play. I can't do it. Will you do it? I said, well, I've never done acting before. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's informal. So I said, okay. So we went out into the country. This guy, James, um, had a amphitheater, like a Greek amphitheater. He built it, the pit and the rows. He was out there, a bunch of like older people from the 60s. I mean, they were what people from the 60s, kind of like free, free this and free that. And I went to that rehearsal, and just during the warm ups and trying to develop this character, or it was like Alice, the director, I'd speak a line or whatever it was, and she, okay, now do it this way. And then I'd try it this way. Okay, now move this way and say it, or whatever it was.
Hmm.
And I was just blown away. I was absolutely stunned. It was like a revelation because it's like, oh, you mean there's not a right way? Tell me the right way. No, just try it this way and this way and this way. And it was like something went off. And so that was one of these, these moments of like a real shift in my brain. It's just like, wow, there is a whole world available that I never really explored
Hmm.
because I was always about the analytics and the right and wrongs, and this is the way, and memorize this and blah blah blah. That certainly has a place. Don't get me wrong. But at that time, it was just like my world just opened up, and so I did that, and it was a lot of fun. It was like actors. They're fun, especially in the country. um, And so then I got involved with that theater, and then I did some commedia dell'arte. And then a friend of mine said, who got jobs, says, "Hey, I need like 7 mimes to do this mall opening. It's so easy. You blow up balloons, you paint your face, you blow up balloons, you take some pictures, you hand out this stuff, and you don't say anything." Okay, so so it's like, okay, I'll do that. $7 an hour, which I thought,
Yeah.
Um, that's how when was that? That must have been like 80 83. So anyway, a little while ago. So I did that. Says, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So it's like, "Hey, you might want to take some classes." So, I took some mime classes from Jeff, the local mime, and then I took some from this guy, Ronlin Foreman, who was just an absolute genius.
Hmm.
And he was just a mime, and his ability to see into the soul and the psyche and the character was phenomenal. And I don't want to, I could go down this road.
Right. Right.
Um, just a real creative genius, and I was just in awe of him. Then anyway, so I go on, got some jobs, and then I got an agent, and worked in
Wow.
South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia a little bit, and then I got interested. What did I do? Oh, then I went to body mind centering school, and
Yeah.
then
Well, I'm going to ask you a question that kind of does carry the arc. I was just fascinated though. I wanted to hear more because it's like, nah, you don't meet a bona fide mime every day, and
Mhm.
particularly one who's gone down the rabbit hole of studying from Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen's work of body mind centering, and then you add to that even like all the things. So um, I love to ask people this question, especially now that my podcast is called Compromised Alchemized. And have you read The Alchemist, by the way, book? Well, it's a really beautiful allegory, and Paulo Coelho has this beautiful picture or story of a shepherd, and it's he's the person for whom the story is written. It's just this fictional story about this shepherd from Andalusia who goes in search of his treasure. He knows that he's not just meant to raise the sheep and all, and so he
Mm.
goes on a journey, and he in search of a dream, and he gets to the desert, and in the desert, he finds an academic on the same caravan who's actually trying to get to the alchemist to learn intellectually. What ends up, the alchemist mentors him, Santiago, this boy, even though he didn't want it because he sees the gift in him or the desire or that spark of curiosity. But there's this pivotal moment. It's one of these famous quotes from the book where Santiago has sold his sheep. He's walking through a town, and this mystical figure approaches him and says, "The universe conspires in your favor when you are in pursuit of your personal legend." And so that phrase has become quite a iconic theme. The personal legend, Paulo defines it as your dream. So Santiago's dream, but there's also something in there about your destiny, your calling, and what you're put on this planet to do. Your story, the story of your life. So I want to ask you, Ben, Bob. So sorry. All of a sudden, I thought of all the names that start with B. Bruce Almighty. Maybe it was the magical movie Bruce Almighty. And okay, if I could ask you, Bob, what your personal legend is, just what would you say is undergirding principle of what you pursue in all of these endeavors? Like, what is your purpose? But what is your personal legend?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. Well, I don't believe I'm there right now. I haven't manifested personal legend, if you will. I think it's also partly like what isn't,
Hmm.
what is not
Yeah.
my personal legend.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about this a little bit since you contacted me yesterday and today. It's like, well, what is that about? And little little things like is I mean, each of us deep down, whether we know it or not, knows who we are, but it's covered up by so much stuff.
Hmm.
I think so. It is in my case. I'll use eyes. I, in my innermost wisdom, know who I am,
Hmm.
but my ordinary everyday activities and relationships and even words don't reflect that. You know, they're like, persona, mask. We all wear a mask or many
Yeah.
masks. I think there's many masks between us and our, um, you know, personal hero, personal
Legend.
legend.
Yeah.
And so I think it's taking those masks off. And
Mm.
the other thing I loved about theater was mask work. Oh my,
Mhm.
anyway, I'm not to, you can tell how much you bring the theater out in me.
Well, I mean, I just wanna now we're gonna have part 3. I wanna talk to you about more about theater. I have a history a little, but anyways, I
Yeah.
love theater. So, yeah, love to do more
So,
about
really, I think my journey is discovering who I am. And it's not like I'm lost or anything. I'm,
that. Mhm.
I'm basically content. Um, and in the direction I'm going, like I'm not an academic. I mean, I'm smart that way. I'm really dumb in other ways. That just happens to be part of my bringing up. But it's not my deal. I don't think I'm a legend professor. I got into this somatic work, and I'm thinking it's like, well, what is the path to a legend, to my legend? And I'm thinking just recently, I mean, within the past 5 or 6 months, is well, one, it's seeking. It's constant seeking, but not as though I'm lost, but constant like openness to possibility.
Mm,
And
yeah.
what like lights or ignites that spark, that like that joy, um, and or the aha, yeah. And in a way, let's see, there's a number of thoughts coming to me right now, so I need to slow down. So let me finish with this thread. So recently, within the past 6 months, or maybe longer, I just kind of met somebody at the center, Seymour Center. Not that that's really important, but we were just in passing. He said, "Oh, Bob, do you know Frank? He teaches Tai Chi." Oh, okay, cool. So first of all, I had to know Grace just in passing, and it just so happened to like she said these words. Oh, I'm interested. So I meet Frank. I take some classes with Frank. Through Frank, I meet another fellow, Lay. And so Lay, so I let go of Frank. I mean, he's great, just not quite my style right now. And then I connected with Lay, and it's like, oh, this works for me.
Mhm.
This is what works for me right now. So it's kind of like moving through and say, oh yeah, this is in that direction that I feel is sustainable, that gives me, that joy, or actually what gets me practicing every morning. We need I need that inspiration.
Mhm.
Um, Also, with respect to a principle of embryology, is like, not to get too specific, is we develop and create a certain structure. For example, it's the structure of the whose zona pellucida.
Mhm.
We develop within that. We form as much as we can within that zona pellucida. Then it's like we really can't grow anymore. Then we hatch out of that, quote unquote hatch, and then we're free floating. We can go so far on our own. We find the uterine wall. Okay, that gives us a whole different level of nutrition. I didn't. I'm leaving the yolk sac out, but anyway, the point is that we continue to find nutrition or structure, um, environments that we can grow in to a certain point, and then there's a vehemence, a desire for expanding, of growing, which calls us to either to let go of that, find another structure or container to grow further, to give us a different kind of support. I don't want to say more, but a different kind of support, and grow into that. And we can stop that at any point. Like after we're born, it's like I can get into, um, this is my house, these are my friends, this is what I do, da da da, and kind of like use that as the boundary of my expansion, my growth, my development, whatever. It's fine. We all have times of like, you know, uh, so many ideas come to mind. We all have times of those, and I've just been gifted somehow, gifted and cursed with a movement oriented body.
Mhm.
I just, I've been blessed, like I said, blessed and cursed with that, like, Ayurveda would call it more of a vata, pitta vata body. You know, I've got a little bit of kapha, that grounding, that earth, the sustenance, the
Right.
slowness. But to move forward like that, um, and it's a curse because it's like it's really challenging to just sit and be okay with just sitting and
Yeah.
being with the earth, landing. So I would say my legend would be landing before I die.
Mm.
That would be my legend.
Well, it's interesting because I think your exploration of movement has led to yourself and a lot of others discovering something in awareness, but also practice that nobody else had.
Mm.
So you and then so I'd almost think just like you said, what isn't your legend? Well, it's kind of like you're living your legend right now, and yet you're not done. there's more. And I
Yes.
feel that's exciting. You also answered part 2 of my question without even, getting prompted, which I love, and I like to ask people, now a legend, like on a map, is a key that shows you where you're at on your path, on your legend. You totally covered that because you said it's seeking, the openness, the curiosity, the finding teachers to, you so it's so good because I think that's an aspirational kind of part of this too, is I think some people are looking for like Bob, you've known so much and learned so much, and you're always seeking, you're always curious, and you're not satisfied because you're alive. And I could say, well, of course, but that's not an of course. There's great wisdom in continually expanding to new horizons. Um, and yet I can feel not the paradox, but you saying, but yet you're excited about landing and about that grounding and about that settling. So, but I feel like that's quite a cool poetic journey you're taking us on. And I also know that we're coming close to our time, so I don't want to go beyond the boundaries of what you have. And please hang out with me for a minute after we end, Bob. So I want to make sure I leave just a minute to wrap up after. But okay, knowing that we're going to have another discussion as you wish on theater and more, um, and people will know how to find prior episode and more about you. Um, but yeah, thanks for being on now the
Mhm.
Compromise to Alchemize podcast with me, Bob. And any words you want to leave for people, or how can they pursue more learning about you and what you're doing?
Let's see. Well, thank you so much, Neil, for contacting me. There was something that came to mind is I think you said curiosity is important, and also being curious, but also being kind of I would say content. And I guess the legend would be of like feeling, I don't know if satisfied is a word, but content with this experience of me, myself, life, and relationships. Um, I think some people get it right out of the beginning, and some people take a little bit longer. But I don't think that my mother and father would really, see what I'm doing now as what they expected.
Yeah,
And I'm not a father. I'm not a parent. So maybe parents are just like, and you're 3.
yeah.
It's like you just children are the greatest gifts to the world. You just like um, give them roots and wings to fly. I mean,
Hmm.
that's what a parent does. So it's been told. Works for me. But I don't think I think I've taken a different trajectory than what my mother and father would. They're both passed. Um, would think that I would be. Except maybe all parents want their children to be happy. Um, at least have a sense of joy. So so with joy, and this has been very, very joyful to speak with you and just kind of like informally and hear some of your experience and share some of mine. I mean, I never thought that I would be talking about this today. It's very fun. You can draw things out as a host. If anybody's interested, you can find me at my website, which is boblehnberg.com. Yep.
Cool. And if you want to give us a one line uh, inspirational phrase, but only mime it, and I'm going to try to interpret it, and we'll see how close I get. Quick, quick sentence. So you mime it, and I'll see if I can guess it, and then you can correct me.
Oh my gosh. Let's see.
I have heartfelt gratitude for you all.
Yeah, yeah, that works. That works for me. Yeah.
What was
And,
it? Tell me what it was so we know at the end.
I just you know, from my heart out. I mean, to
Okay.
express from my heart
Yeah. Yeah.
out could be gratitude, could be the mind, the gift. The
That's it.
let me do it. Let me do it and put words to it.
Okay.
'Cause there's a gesture and then words come after. Kind of opening to you,
Uh-huh.
opening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Well, that's beautiful. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And yeah, thanks for sharing from your heart, Bob. Really appreciate that.
Mm, thank you.
And I look forward to another time. So, okay, well, enjoy. Share this with somebody you know needs to hear this. Thank you for listening to the Compromise to Alchemized podcast. Really excited to thank Jessica from Lunalux for the music, this track called Major. I want to thank Toshi, who originally did the design work for my cover art. And then I also want to thank Alyssa from my team for podcast publishing, and my whole team, including Kat, for heading up my world. And then also definitely want you all to follow me on YouTube, follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast. Comment, give us a rating, and also follow me on Instagram at Dr. Neil Bulchandani so you can stay tuned to my latest. Thanks so much, and you have an amazing day.
This is major.